started. So I am with Samson Varughese, and he is a nurturer. And I wanted to hear from your voice, Samson, exactly what a nurturer, what are some of your superpowers? What are some of your challenges? What is it like to be a nurturer?
I think for me, I think my role as pastor may also kind of have a lot to do with, or my love for my role as a pastor may have something to do with my innate desire to help people and to be there for people and care for people at times of need. And so, you know, I think that comes out naturally in what I do as an occupation, but then hopefully it character as a person, my care for me uh, comes out in regular life as well.
Yeah, and I've been amazed at your leadership as a nurturer and having some of those skills of knowing people, how people feel in a situation, being able to sense that has been kind of a superpower of yours as well. Talk about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm always great at that, but my wife says that I'm good at having kind of discernment. Maybe the spiritual word to use for it, but discernment towards how people are feeling about things, kind of what is the general uh, gauge of the room, or if someone is having a tough moment or tough day where I think maybe a lot of people might miss it for some reason. I think for me, I'm able to spot that a little bit more and maybe even address it with that person so to help them when they're kind of facing a challenge.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's incredible. Thanks for sharing that. Talk about some of the challenges as being a nurturer. Do you face any specific challenges that people could relate to?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm trying to think what would be the biggest challenge to nurture. I think, um, on so I'm a nurturer, creative, and I think, whenever my creative side is flowing, I'm probably a little bit less working in my nurturer skills. And when it's time for when I have an idea or something like that, I always feel like it's harder for me to speak up. I always have to remind myself, and I think it was probably harder in earlier seasons of ministry for me, like of not necessarily wanting to be the person that stands out or speaks out. But now I feel like because of the team I work with, because of the leader I work with, Pastor Rodney, um, you know, he for one encourages me to speak out. He's shown me through, obviously the way he leads and the way he guides that he wants me to speak up. And so I feel very empowered as a nurturer to be able to speak up now. But I think early on, especially kind of being raw in my ministry, being new in my ministry, 10 years ago, I felt very uncomfortable speaking out and speaking up, or speaking out when I would just have an idea or a thought, which could be a good one. And I think, it happens in seasons. I remember, when I first started this role that I'm in right now, I would be in meetings with, people that I highly respect that I think are much wiser and have much more to contribute than I do. Maybe that's more of my nurturing thing, speaking out. And I would just say, hey, maybe this isn't a bad idea. That's how I would set up my idea. And I think I did that in a couple of meetings in a row. And Pastor Rodney was like, that's not a bad idea, Jason. In fact, stop saying it's a bad idea. Just say your idea.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I think kind of just speaking, feeling like you're speaking out of turn, or being the first one to speak. That's always, I think, a little bit harder as an introvert.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. I mean, what's incredible is that I've watched you grow into that, where you just keep speaking up more and more. And I think an empowered nurturer that speaks up, we all want to hear from nurturers more, because you guys have a pulse for the room, and so you can make incredible leaders as you learn to speak up, and you certainly have. So I appreciate your leadership in my life, and thanks for sharing your voice and who you are. It means the world to me, Samson.
Absolutely.
All
Thank you, Josh.
all right, man.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for coming to us from the car, and hope you have a great day.